What drives a man to defy the world's most powerful institutions, expose hidden truths, and confront the wounds of his past? Charles Spencer, Princess Diana's brother, has done just that. From his bold eulogy at Diana's funeral to his revelations about childhood trauma, Spencer's life is a story of resilience and transformation. How did his upbringing shape his choices? What hidden truths about Diana and their shared past have surfaced? And how has he turned personal pain into a powerful legacy? Let's dive into the story of a man determined to honor his sister while carving his own path. It's difficult to think of a public figure who captured hearts quite like Princess Diana. Her warmth, compassion, and vulnerability stood in stark contrast to the rigid traditions of the British royal family. But with that global adoration came relentless scrutiny. Every move, every smile, and every stumble became fodder for tabloids, painting an image of a life both glittering and deeply challenging. Amid this whirlwind, one figure stood steadfast by her side: her younger brother, Charles Spencer. Charles Spencer wasn't merely a witness to Diana's highs and lows. He was her confidant, her protector, and in many ways, one of the few people who understood the enormous pressure she endured. While Diana's fame reached unimaginable heights in the 1980s, Spencer observed, often helplessly, how the media and royal expectations began to chip away at his sister's well-being. Behind the glitz of royal tours and charity events, Diana faced a mounting personal battle, one that Spencer saw firsthand. The bond between the siblings had been forged in their shared upbringing at Althorp, the Spencer family's ancestral home. It was a life of privilege, yes, but also one steeped in the strictures of aristocratic tradition. Diana, with her innate charisma, seemed destined for a life that would transcend those boundaries. When she married Prince Charles in 1981, it seemed like a fairy tale. For Spencer, however, the marriage marked the beginning of a difficult chapter for his sister. He saw the cracks behind the public smiles, the loneliness she confided in him, and the relentless expectations that came with being the people's princess. As the years went on, the pressure only intensified. By the 1990s, Diana's marriage to Prince Charles had publicly crumbled, and the tabloids were relentless. Spencer often expressed his outrage at the way the media seemed to prey on her vulnerabilities. It was a cruel irony. Her kindness and openness, which endeared her to millions, were the very qualities exploited by those looking for scandal. Yet through it all, Diana remained a devoted mother to her sons, William and Harry, and an advocate for causes close to her heart. Spencer admired her strength, even as he worried about the toll it was taking on her. Then came that fateful night in 1997. Diana's death in a Paris car crash sent shockwaves around the world. Spencer, who had always been a quieter figure in the public eye, suddenly found himself thrust into an unimaginable position. His eulogy at her funeral became a defining moment, not just for him, but for the entire Spencer family. Standing before a global audience, he spoke with a mixture of grief and defiance, describing Diana as the most hunted person of the modern age. It was a raw, unfiltered condemnation of the media and, by implication, the royal family's failure to protect her. The applause that followed was deafening, a rare moment of unity in a time of profound loss. For Spencer, however, the aftermath of that speech was anything but simple. While many lauded his words as a courageous defense of Diana's legacy, others within royal circles bristled at the implied criticism. It was a line drawn in the sand, and Spencer found himself increasingly at odds with the institution his sister had married into. Yet, he remained resolute. If anything, Diana's death had strengthened his commitment to speaking out, not just against the forces that had plagued her life, but also against the broader pressures of tradition and privilege. The days following the funeral were a blur of grief and responsibility. Spencer returned to Althorp, now tasked with preserving his sister's memory. Diana was laid to rest on a small island within the estate, a place of serenity and reflection. For Spencer, Althorp became more than a family home. It was a sanctuary for Diana's legacy. He opened parts of the estate to the public, allowing visitors to pay their respects and learn about her charitable work. It was his way of keeping her spirit alive, even as he grappled with his own sorrow. But grief is rarely a linear process. and for Spencer, the weight of Diana's death lingered heavily. He often spoke of the pain of losing her, not just as a sister, but as a beacon of hope in a world often lacking kindness. Over time, his reflections began to shift. He saw parallels between Diana's struggles and his own life, particularly in the way both had been shaped, and at times constrained, by their upbringing and public roles. This introspection would come to define much of his later life as he sought to make sense of their shared experiences and chart a new path forward. As the years passed, the world moved forward, but for Charles Spencer, the memory of his sister remained an ever-present force. Diana's death had not only left a void in his personal life, but also cast a long shadow over his public one. The legacy of his fiery eulogy lingered, simultaneously elevating him as a defender of Diana's memory and alienating him from parts of the royal family. His words, lauded by many as a bold condemnation of the forces that contributed to Diana's tragic end, were a stark reminder that Spencer was not afraid to speak out, even when it made others uncomfortable. This defiance was not without its challenges. In the wake of Diana's death, Spencer found himself increasingly at odds with the royal family, whose never complain, never explain ethos stood in stark contrast to his outspoken nature. The tension came to a head in 2017 when Spencer publicly revealed that he had been misled about his nephews, William and Harry, walking behind Diana's coffin. At the time, he had expressed concern over the emotional toll such a public display might take on the young princes. However, royal officials assured him that it was their choice, a claim Spencer later discovered to be untrue. Reflecting on the moment, he described it as the most horrifying half-hour of my life. His vivid recounting of the experience underscored not just his grief, but also his lingering anger over how the situation was handled. For Spencer, this incident was emblematic of a broader pattern, one in which tradition and protocol often took precedence over personal well-being. It was a sentiment he revisited repeatedly over the years, particularly as he observed the modern royal family grappling with their own challenges. While Spencer refrained from directly naming individuals, his commentary often hinted at parallels between Diana's struggles and those faced by newer members of the royal fold. In his view, the pressures of royalty had evolved but remained deeply ingrained, manifesting in different forms for a new generation. Yet Spencer's public life was not solely defined by his relationship with the royals. In the years following Diana's death, he turned his attention inward, reflecting on the factors that had shaped his own life. His upbringing at Althorp, once a source of stability, began to reveal its complexities. As he delved into his past, Spencer uncovered painful memories that had long been buried. These revelations culminated in his memoir, A Very Private School, in which he detailed the abuse he endured during his years at boarding school. The memoir was a raw and unflinching account of a childhood marred by violence. Spencer recounted how the headmaster inflicted brutal beatings and how a female staff member groomed and abused boys under her care. These experiences, coupled with an unwritten rule of silence, don't tell tales, left lasting scars. For Spencer, writing the book was both cathartic and deeply challenging. It forced him to confront parts of his past that he had long tried to suppress, ultimately leading him to seek therapy for post-traumatic stress disorder. Spencer's revelations didn't stop at his school years. In interviews promoting the book, he spoke candidly about the violence he and Diana endured at home during their childhood. He recalled how their nanny, identified in the memoir as Nanny Forster, would crack their heads together as punishment, a practice that left a physical and emotional imprint. For Spencer, these memories were not merely relics of the past. They were a lens through which he began to understand his own struggles with relationships, trust, and self-worth. While the memoir shed light on Spencer's personal history, it also resonated with a broader audience. By sharing his story, he joined a growing chorus of voices advocating for survivors of childhood abuse. His openness encouraged others to confront their own experiences, challenging the societal stigma that often silences victims. For Spencer, this advocacy became a driving force in his life, a way to channel his pain into purpose. But healing is rarely straightforward, and for Spencer, the process was ongoing. Alongside therapy, he turned to practices like Tai Chi and breathing exercises, finding solace in routines that allowed him to reconnect with his body and mind. These techniques, though seemingly simple, became essential tools in his journey toward resilience. Spencer often remarked that sharing his story was as much about helping others as it was about helping himself. By saying his issues out loud, he began to see them not as weaknesses, but as realities that demanded attention and care. His reflections also extended to Diana. As he worked through his own trauma, he found himself revisiting her life and the challenges she faced. In her, he saw a kindred spirit, someone who had endured pain, yet found ways to use it for good. Whether through her charitable work or her unwavering love for her sons, Diana had left a legacy of compassion that Spencer felt compelled to honor. In many ways, his efforts to preserve her memory were also a way of preserving the best parts of himself. Spencer's commitment to Diana's legacy was perhaps most evident at Althorp, where her presence was felt in every corner. The estate, with its sprawling grounds and historic significance, had always been a source of pride for the Spencer family. But after Diana's death, it took on a new role as a place of remembrance and reflection. Visitors from around the world came to pay their respects, drawn by the enduring impact of Diana's life and the quiet strength of her brother's stewardship. Even as Spencer opened Althorp to the public, he remained acutely aware of its personal significance. For him, it was more than a family home. It was a symbol of resilience, a testament to the enduring power of memory. Walking its grounds, he often found himself reflecting on the parallels between its history and his own, a blend of grandeur and complexity, beauty and pain. As these reflections deepened, so too did his resolve to make sense of his experiences. Spencer's journey was not just one of grief and remembrance, but also of rediscovery. By confronting the shadows of his past, he began to see the contours of a life that, while deeply shaped by pain, was also filled with opportunities for growth and connection. As Charles Spencer confronted his past and sought solace through therapy and advocacy, another part of his life began to unravel: his relationships. Despite his aristocratic heritage and public image, Spencer's personal life was anything but a fairy tale. His romantic history became a subject of intense public scrutiny, marked by a series of marriages that ended in heartbreak and eventually, growth. Each relationship seemed to mirror his internal struggles, shaped by the weight of his upbringing and the trauma he carried with him. Spencer's first marriage to Victoria Lockwood in 1989 began with promise but quickly revealed cracks. The couple relocated to Cape Town, South Africa, in an attempt to escape the prying eyes of the British press. But distance offered little reprieve. The pressures of public life combined with personal challenges took a toll on their relationship. By 1997, the same year Diana passed away, their marriage had disintegrated, leaving Spencer to return to England with a heavy heart and a growing sense of personal failure. The couple shared 4 children, and while Spencer remained devoted to them, his struggles with relationships were far from over. The years that followed brought more attempts at love, each with its own set of complexities. In 2001, Spencer married Caroline Freud, a union that, like his first, seemed hopeful at the outset. Together they had 2 children, but their marriage ended in 2007. By this point, Spencer's reputation as a romantic figure was beginning to shift in public perception. Where once he had been seen as a grieving brother and a stalwart defender of Diana's legacy, he was now viewed through a more critical lens, with tabloids often sensationalizing his personal struggles. Spencer's third marriage to Canadian philanthropist Karen Gordon in 2011 marked a turning point. The couple seemed to share a mutual desire to make a positive impact, with Karen's work focused on helping orphaned and abandoned children through her charity, Whole Child International. Their partnership appeared strong, and they welcomed a daughter, Lady Charlotte Diana Spencer, named in honor of Diana. For a time, it seemed as though Spencer had found stability. Yet behind the scenes, the weight of his unresolved trauma continued to cast a shadow over his relationships. By 2024, the marriage had come to an end, with Spencer citing the immense personal strain he had faced while writing his memoir. It was during this period of reflection and transition that Spencer met Katrine Jarman, a Norwegian archaeologist. Their paths crossed in 2021 when Jarman visited Althorp as part of a documentary project. Initially, their connection was purely professional, rooted in their shared love of history and the mysteries it holds. Jarman, an expert in Viking history, brought a fresh perspective to Althorp's rich heritage, and Spencer, ever the historian, found her insights captivating. Over time, their collaboration blossomed into a friendship, one built on mutual respect and intellectual curiosity. For Spencer, the friendship was a breath of fresh air. After years of navigating the complexities of public and personal relationships, Jarman offered a sense of ease and understanding that he hadn't experienced before. At first, their bond remained platonic, partly due to the 18-year age gap between them and Spencer's ongoing marriage at the time. But as his personal circumstances evolved, so too did his feelings for Jarman. By 2024, the pair had confirmed their relationship, marking a new chapter in Spencer's life. Their romance, while celebrated by some, was not without its challenges. The age difference sparked curiosity, and Spencer's history of failed marriages led many to question whether this new relationship would last. But for Spencer, the connection with Jarman felt different. He often spoke about how their bond had grown organically, rooted in shared interests and a deep understanding of one another's experiences. Unlike his previous relationships, which were often shaped by external pressures, this one seemed to thrive on authenticity and mutual respect. Jarman, too, brought her own perspective to the relationship. As a historian and academic, she was no stranger to the complexities of navigating personal and professional life. Her achievements, including her role as an advisor to the Museum of the Viking Age in Oslo, demonstrated a dedication to her craft that Spencer deeply admired. Together, they found joy in exploring historical curiosities and engaging in intellectual exchanges, a dynamic that enriched their partnership. Despite their differences, Spencer and Jarman seemed to complement one another in ways that surprised even them. Spencer often remarked that being with Jarman allowed him to rediscover parts of himself that had been buried under years of trauma and public scrutiny. She encouraged him to embrace spontaneity and approach life with a renewed sense of curiosity. In turn, Spencer's openness about his past provided Jarman with insights into the man behind the public persona, fostering a deeper connection between them. Their relationship, however, wasn't entirely free from external challenges. Reports surfaced of legal disputes involving Jarman and Spencer's estranged wife, Karen, adding an element of tension to their otherwise harmonious bond. Yet the couple remained steadfast, choosing to focus on their shared goals and the strength of their partnership rather than the noise around them. As Spencer navigated this new chapter, he also reflected on the lessons he had learned from his previous relationships. He acknowledged the mistakes he had made and the ways in which his past had influenced his choices. But instead of dwelling on regrets, he chose to view these experiences as opportunities for growth. With Jarman by his side, he found himself embracing a more grounded and hopeful perspective, one that prioritized connection and authenticity over external expectations. Their story, while still unfolding, offered a glimpse into the resilience of the human spirit. For Spencer, love had always been intertwined with loss and longing, but in Jarman, he discovered a partnership that felt as much about healing as it was about romance. It was a reminder that even in the face of profound challenges, new beginnings are always possible. For Charles Spencer, finding a sense of peace in his personal life marked a turning point, but his role as the custodian of his family's legacy remained a constant thread. The Spencer family had long been one of Britain's most prominent aristocratic dynasties, their history intertwined with that of the monarchy itself. At the heart of this legacy stood Althorp, the ancestral estate that Charles inherited and diligently worked to preserve. With its stately architecture, sprawling grounds, and rich history, Althorp was not just a home, but a symbol of the Spencer family's enduring influence. After Diana's death, Althorp became synonymous with her memory. Charles, recognizing the global affection for his sister, opened parts of the estate to the public, allowing visitors to pay their respects at her resting place on the island in the estate's oval lake. For many, Althorp was a pilgrimage site, a place where Diana's spirit could be honored away from the often harsh glare of public life. For Charles, the estate represented both a responsibility and a refuge, a space where he could reflect on his own journey while safeguarding Diana's legacy. Managing Althorp, however, was no small task. The estate spanned over 13,000 acres and required significant resources to maintain. Over the years, Charles implemented a range of initiatives to ensure its sustainability, from hosting events to developing its historical and cultural appeal. The estate's ties to Diana added a unique dimension, with exhibitions showcasing her life and charitable work drawing thousands of visitors annually. These efforts not only celebrated Diana's impact, but also helped fund the upkeep of the estate, blending public interest with private stewardship. Beyond its financial and logistical demands, Althorp carried immense emotional weight for Charles. It was a place steeped in family history, where generations of Spencers had lived, loved, and left their mark. For Charles, walking its halls and grounds was both a privilege and a reminder of the complexities of his lineage. The grandeur of the estate often masked the struggles that had unfolded within its walls, from personal tragedies to the pressures of upholding tradition. As Charles delved deeper into the history of Althorp, he found himself drawn to the parallels between its story and his own. Just as the estate had weathered centuries of change and challenge, so too had he navigated a life marked by both privilege and pain. This connection fueled his passion for history, a field in which he had carved out a successful career as an author. Through his books, such as Killers of the King and the White Ship, Charles explored themes of power, resilience, and the human condition, subjects that resonated deeply with his own experiences. Writing became an outlet for Charles, a way to channel his reflections into something tangible. His works were well received, earning praise for their meticulous research and engaging prose. Yet for Charles, the process of writing was as much about self-discovery as it was about storytelling. Each project offered an opportunity to explore new perspectives, whether through the lens of historical events or his own journey. It was a craft that required patience and precision, qualities he had come to value in his personal life as well. Despite his achievements, Charles remained acutely aware of the delicate balance between his public responsibilities and his private aspirations. The global fascination with Diana ensured that his life would always be subject to scrutiny, a reality he had learned to navigate over the years. Yet, rather than shy away from this attention, Charles sought to use it as a platform for advocacy. His openness about his experiences with childhood trauma and mental health resonated with many, challenging the notion that privilege shielded individuals from pain. This commitment to advocacy extended beyond his personal story. Charles often spoke about the importance of breaking the cycle of silence that allowed abuse to persist, particularly within institutions. His own experiences at boarding school, where he endured physical and emotional abuse, served as a stark reminder of the need for systemic change. By sharing his story, Charles hoped to inspire others to speak out and seek help, fostering a culture of accountability and support. At the same time, Charles recognized the broader context of his advocacy. As a member of the aristocracy, he understood the unique challenges and privileges that came with his position. While his platform allowed him to reach a wide audience, it also carried the weight of expectation. Balancing these dynamics required a delicate touch, one that Charles approached with thoughtfulness and humility. His efforts to honor Diana's legacy, advocate for survivors, and preserve Althorp reflected a broader theme in Charles's life: the pursuit of meaning in the face of adversity. For him, these pursuits were not just obligations, but sources of purpose, guiding him through the complexities of his journey. They allowed him to connect with others, whether through shared experiences of loss, a passion for history, or a commitment to creating a better future. In recent years, this sense of purpose has taken on new dimensions. As Charles embraced his partnership with Katrina Yarman, he found himself re-evaluating his priorities and the ways in which he approached life. Their relationship, grounded in mutual respect and intellectual curiosity, offered a fresh perspective on the possibilities of connection and growth. For Charles, it was a reminder that even amid challenges, there was always room for new beginnings. These reflections often brought him back to Althorp, where the past and present converged in profound ways. As he walked the estate's grounds, he felt a deep sense of continuity, a link between the generations that had come before him and the legacy he hoped to leave behind. It was a space that encouraged introspection and renewal, qualities that had become central to Charles's journey. Yet, even as he looked to the future, Charles remained firmly rooted in the lessons of the past. He often spoke about the importance of resilience, not as a fixed trait, but as a practice, one that required effort, reflection, and a willingness to adapt. Whether through his writing, his advocacy, or his personal relationships, Charles embodied this principle, navigating life's complexities with a blend of courage and grace. As the world around him continued to evolve, Charles found comfort in the constants of his life: the enduring memory of Diana, the history of Althorp, and the connections that gave his journey meaning. These anchors, though shaped by both joy and sorrow, served as reminders of the resilience that had carried him through and the possibilities that still lay ahead. For Charles Spencer, the road to understanding his place in the world was paved with reflection, responsibility, and a determination to carve meaning from the chaos of his life. While the public often viewed him through the lens of his connection to Princess Diana, his personal journey revealed a far more intricate story, one of resilience, advocacy, and an unwavering commitment to authenticity. As the years passed, Spencer began to speak more openly about the challenges of living in the shadow of both royalty and tragedy. His relationship with Diana had defined much of his public persona, but he was equally determined to assert his identity beyond that connection. Through interviews and public appearances, he offered glimpses into his life as a historian, a steward of Althorp, and an individual shaped by profound personal experiences. His candidness, while often praised, sometimes ruffled feathers, particularly among those who preferred the discretion traditionally associated with Britain's upper echelons. Spencer's reflections on the pressures of aristocracy often returned to the concept of privilege, a double-edged sword that afforded him opportunities but also imposed significant burdens. He acknowledged that while wealth and status provided material comforts, they did little to shield against emotional pain or personal struggles. In fact, he often argued privilege could amplify these challenges, creating an isolating environment where vulnerability was frowned upon. This perspective resonated with many, offering a rare glimpse into the human complexities behind a life of apparent opulence. One of Spencer's most poignant observations was the way societal expectations shaped both his and Diana's experiences. For Diana, these expectations were magnified 100-fold by her role as a royal, with every action scrutinized and judged. For Spencer, they manifested in the quieter but no less significant pressures of upholding the Spencer family legacy. These parallels underscored a shared resilience, one that had allowed both siblings to navigate their respective paths with grace and determination. As Spencer embraced his role as a historian and writer, he found new ways to connect with the public. His books, meticulously researched and vividly written, explored themes that often mirrored his own life: power, legacy, and the enduring impact of the past on the present. They offered him a platform to share his passion for history, while subtly weaving in lessons drawn from his personal journey. Readers appreciated not only the depth of his knowledge, but also the humanity that shone through in his work, a reminder that history is, at its core, a reflection of the people who shape it. This connection between the past and the present was particularly evident in Spencer's advocacy work. By sharing his experiences with childhood abuse, he became a voice for survivors, challenging the stigma that often silenced them. His willingness to confront difficult truths inspired others to do the same, creating a ripple effect that extended far beyond his immediate audience. For Spencer, this work was deeply personal, a way to transform his pain into something meaningful and to honor the resilience that had carried him through. At the same time, Spencer's personal life continued to evolve in ways that reflected his journey of growth. His relationship with Katrina Yarman, while initially met with skepticism due to their age difference and his history of failed marriages, became a source of stability and renewal. Together, they navigated the complexities of their respective pasts, finding common ground in their shared passions and mutual respect. For Spencer, this partnership was not just a romantic connection, but a testament to the possibility of new beginnings, even after a lifetime of challenges. Their bond, while deeply personal, also highlighted broader themes that had defined Spencer's life: the importance of authenticity, the value of intellectual curiosity, and the power of connection to heal old wounds. In Jarman, Spencer found a partner who understood the intricacies of his world and supported him in his efforts to create a life that felt true to himself. It was a relationship rooted in honesty and growth, qualities that had often been elusive in his earlier years. As Spencer reflected on his journey, he often spoke about the lessons he had learned along the way. Chief among them was the idea that resilience is not a destination but a practice, one that requires constant effort, reflection, and adaptation. Whether through his writing, his advocacy, or his relationships, Spencer embodied this principle, using each experience as an opportunity to grow and evolve. The enduring memory of Diana remained a guiding force in Spencer's life. Her compassion, strength, and ability to connect with people from all walks of life served as both an inspiration and a reminder of the legacy they shared. At Althorp, this legacy was palpable, woven into the fabric of the estate and the initiatives designed to celebrate Diana's life and impact. For Spencer, preserving her memory was not just a duty, but a deeply personal mission, one that honored the bond they had shared while allowing her spirit to continue inspiring others. As he looked to the future, Spencer's focus shifted toward building a life that balanced his responsibilities with his aspirations. Whether through his work at Althorp, his advocacy for survivors, or his personal relationships, he sought to create a narrative that reflected the complexities of his journey. It was a life that defied simple categorization, blending the weight of history with the possibilities of renewal. Spencer's story, while deeply individual, carried universal themes that resonated with people across the globe. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, the enduring power of connection, and the potential for growth in the face of adversity. For Spencer, these themes were not abstract concepts, but lived realities, ones he embraced with honesty and a determination to make them meaningful. Even as the public continued to view him through the lens of his connection to Diana, Spencer had carved out an identity that was uniquely his own. It was a journey that honored the past while embracing the present, a story of transformation and renewal that reflected both his challenges and his triumphs. And as he continued to navigate the complexities of his life, one thing remained clear. Charles Spencer was more than just a brother to a princess. He was a man who had turned pain into purpose, creating a legacy that would endure far beyond the headlines. With that, we have reached the end of today's video. If you have this far with us, be sure to check out other videos on the channel.